Hello and welcome to Simple Essentials. My name is Emmy and today we're going to chat about budgeting and money. Budgeting and money is a key part of simplicity. It's got to do with your mental health, your stress levels. We all have a need for certainty and stability in our life to some extent, and money is usually a big point of worry or stress for people, whether they don't feel like they have enough. You might have debt, there might be a lot of things going on for you, or even people who are reasonably wealthy on the outside can have stress around money and maintaining a certain lifestyle. So I'm guessing you're interested in budgeting because you've landed on this video or searched for this topic. And in this series about budgeting, so I'll create a dedicated playlist in this channel for you around budgeting. But it's one of those things that you kind of have to decide that, as icky and tricky and hard as it can be to admit that I'm not on top of my finances as much as I would like to be, it's never too late to start. So my particular example, and I share more in the blog post, which I'll link below, about a scare that I had a couple of years ago when I was about 35. And I had a financial scare, and I realized that at 35 years old or 36, whatever I was, I didn't really have a good hold on my money. I didn't have enough money saved, and I really felt uncomfortable. And I remember vividly in that very moment, I promised myself that this will never happen again. I am going to back myself, believe in myself, and regardless of how much or little I earn, I will save and invest in myself and my future. And that might sound a little bit corny to you, but having made that decision to back yourself is actually a really, really big part of budgeting. Because for most people, I've learned to love it, and I've learned so much about budgeting here from YouTube and other resources that I'll share with you. But for a lot of people, budgeting is not really an energy-filled, exciting thing. It's something that we feel like we have to do, but kind of like going to the gym, by having a budget and doing some work around your finances, you will feel so much better afterwards, I promise. So in the next budgeting related video, I'm going to cover my favorite budgeting system with you, and I'm also going to give you a template that I use for budgeting my money month to month. It's a super easy system that anyone can use. Before that though, I wanted to have a chat in this video about the 5 bank accounts that I personally use and that have really helped me get a hold on my finances. Quick disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor, and obviously for you, if you're looking to change your financial situation or make any drastic decisions, make sure you chat to your bank manager, a financial advisor, or any other professional that you need to consult with about your unique situation. I'm not sponsored by any of these tools that I mentioned to you. It is simply things that I have used, liked, and found very helpful. In the description box below, I will also link a few of my favorite YouTubers who talk a lot about money, budgeting, finance, and saving money. And I will link them there if you're interested to read more about some of the people who've inspired me. So 2 simple things that I started with before I set up this structure is realize one thing. I was not paying myself first. You've probably heard it before, but it's a big principle in finance to be able to pay yourself first and invest in your future first. And this doesn't mean that you put your entire salary into a savings account and then, run late with bills and get into trouble. It means that however large or small proportion you're able to invest at that time in your future, you put away in a savings account. So when I realized that I really wasn't paying myself first, because what I was doing, I realized, had worked well for me up until that point in my life, up until I was about 35, 36. And I basically had one account for my paycheck to come into where I paid all my bills, bought coffees, bought groceries, all that sort of stuff. And then I had a savings account. And my strategy for saving had been really simple. When I really needed money for a trip or a big purchase, I saved as much as I possibly could. And to the point where I got ultra frugal sometimes and only brought my own lunches to work, never went out for drinks and dinner and things like that, because I would rather have that money on my trip or on my future adventure than I would have in that moment. But there was no strategy to it. I literally just saved what I could, and more often than not, and I'm not happy to admit this, but if this is you, rest assured it's perfectly fixable. So what I would do normally is I would start a month and I would say, this month I'm going to save $200, and I put $200 into my savings account. And then inevitably, as I was getting in towards the end of the month and my spending money had somehow miraculously disappeared, I started to borrow from my savings account, leaving my savings account most months marginally better than I started, but usually not by much. And I will also say that I personally have not had a credit card. I don't like credit cards. I've never been into them. I've never really used them. If you do, then absolutely have them. But remember that, credit cards can cost you a lot of money, which we can cover in separate videos and conversations if you're interested in that. So I basically had one account with my debit card connected to it and one account that I was saving in. So I wasn't really building a lot of wealth. I wasn't really taking responsibility for my budgeting. So one key resource that I came across, it would probably be about a year or 2 years ago now, so 2018 or so, was a book called The Barefoot Investor. And Barefoot Investor is an Australian guy who has done a lot of work. He has a blog and a few other tools as well. I'm not sponsored by him in any way. I just really like this resource, because out of all the budget and financing books that I'd read, his methodology for me made a lot of sense. So check it out if you're interested. You can check his blog out for free via the link below if you're interested to read more. So what I did is I basically took his methodology and I tweaked it a tiny bit to suit me and my needs. Because the thing to remember about finance, much like when you're cooking a recipe from a cookbook or something, is that you don't have to take every single thing. It's kind of like if you don't like basil in a recipe, don't put basil in your food. And the same thing with finance. If the way they label something or use something is not working for you, then tweak it, change it, change the recipe. It's totally fine. It's not set in stone. Same thing if you go see a financial advisor or a bank manager, they might have their agenda wanting you to do a certain thing. So that's why it's good to kind of go, look, my situation is actually a little bit different. So I'm going to take your advice, think about it, and I'll let you know. So I'm quickly going to mention all the 5 accounts that I have, and then we're going to go through them in a little bit more detail and talk about each one. The first one is very simple. It's sort of my salary account. It's salary and bills account. The second one is I call it my Emmy account or my spending account, stuff that I get for me. The third one is a Smile savings account. The fourth one is a Future Fund savings account. And the fifth one is my emergency fund. Okay guys, so rather than me just talking about this and putting little prompts on the screen, I thought it would be easier to just show you on a screen share what these accounts look like and what's included under each one. So the structure that I'm sharing with you here is for an individual, but you can use this type of methodology even if you're in a couple as well. And I can talk more about that in future budgeting videos. So if you're interested in budgeting for couples and that sort of stuff, feel free to leave a comment below this video and I know that you're interested and we'll make a future video about it. But firstly, the first account, as I mentioned, is an everyday account for salary and bills. So every month, this is where my salary comes in and where all of my bills and direct debits and those sort of things come out of. So anything like rent, your mortgage, depending what mortgage payment you have, but I'm renting at the moment, things like groceries, electricity bill, phone bill, anything like that, that is sort of considered essentials or, survival type stuff. The key thing here to remember as well is I always pay myself first, meaning the moment that my salary comes into my account every month, I put an automatic transfer of a fixed amount that goes to my 2 savings accounts, which we'll talk about in a second. But I always make sure that psychologically, before any rent goes out, any bills are paid, I make sure that I pay myself first and I invest in my own future first, however little that is for you. So see if that thinking is something that you'd like to apply, because it doesn't have to be heaps. So that's what I use that account for, and groceries, including, food and drinks and things like that, is included in that part as well. The second bank account is my everyday spending account or my Emmy account. So that's anything kind of non-survival style stuff. Things like eating out, grabbing coffee, drinks with my friends, buying birthday gifts for people, hairdresser, all that sort of stuff. And this is the budget that over the years, when I have had to save a little bit more money for anything particular, this is the budget I cut down on the most. So I cut down on my clothes shopping, my spending, my going out. I might give myself a weekly budget or a weekly target to make sure that I lower this cost here. But I'll talk more about this when we get to the budgeting template in a future video. We'll cover this in a lot more detail for you there. The third account that I set up is my Smile savings account. So I love this. This comes from Barefoot Investor, and he talks about saving for things that make you smile. And for me, I love to travel, as you know if you've seen the About Me video. If you haven't already, feel free to go back and check out the About Emmy video in this playlist. But I have traveled a lot. I have never ever borrowed money to travel. I have sometimes had people give me money as a birthday present or Christmas present towards the trip, but I have always funded my trips and travels by myself by saving up in advance. So I've never put it on a credit card or something like that either. So my Smile savings account is that every month, the moment my salary comes in, a fixed amount goes into this Smile savings account, and it's for traveling, bigger experiences, like I did a skydive the other year with 2 friends of mine, so that came out of my Smile account. I got a new fancy road bike. I really love cycling, so that was a real treat for me. But again, I saved up for it first and put it away. Make sure that this is a high interest savings account. So shop around and see where you can get the best interest on a savings account. Normally, I would say, I think this savings accounts that I have is sitting at about between 2 and 2.5%. If you can get better than that, absolutely go for it. It depends how willing you are to shop around for getting the best return on your investment. For the Smile savings account, you don't want to access that too often, because remember, you're paying to your future self to give yourself a good future experience. So make sure that that account allows you to withdraw money every kind of 2 to 3 months when you're paying, trips or hotels or anything like that. And I have automated that every month 10% of my income automatically goes into this account. So the moment I get paid, 10% go in here. If I'm having a good month, I can sometimes add a little bit more savings to this account, but it depends how my budget is tracking that particular month. And in a similar way, the future fund savings account. So again, Barefoot Investor talks about this. I think he calls it something else, and I can't remember what he calls it off the top of my head, but this is your bigger future fund investment account. So it's basically a high interest savings account where you save for bigger future investment in your life. For me right now, it's a house or apartment deposit. We're hoping to buy a house or a place in the next year or 2. So I'm saving the bigger chunk of my money every month on a house deposit. So I have automated that 20% of my income goes here every month. If I'm having a good month, I might top that up and put about 25% of my income here. But it is really, really powerful. And even if you're not particularly excited about finances, remember that any small amount that you put into a high interest savings account will automatically grow and compound interest as long as you're not taking that money out. So your future fund equivalent, if you choose to use this methodology, your future fund will grow. And it's quite amazing when you get up to a certain amount and you see like, oh, I got $50 this month just for having my money in this account. And it's quite cool. Even if it's just $50, it's $50 you didn't have before. So it's a pretty cool thing to look at. Now, on a totally separate note, there are a lot of people who would say rather than putting money into savings, you should put them into investing in stocks and shares and things like that. I have just started learning about investing and, the stock market and things like that. And I will probably at some point take a part of my future fund saving and automate that towards investment and keeping some of it for the future fund savings account and the money that I need for the house deposit. But again, everyone is different and there's no right or wrong as long as you're starting to invest in your future. And finally, we have the emergency fund, a really, really important one, and Barefoot Investor talks about it. Big, financial advisors and channels like the Dave Ramsey Get Out of Debt plan talks a lot about having an emergency fund as well. So for me, this is a bank account that I never touch, and it's the first one I saved up. So I set up all these 5 accounts when I started getting on top of my finances. I did not save to Smile, and I did not save to Future Fund before I had $2,000 in my emergency fund. For me, $2,000 is a stable amount for any really unexpected bill, or if I had to pay the rent 1 month or something else happened, I got a medical bill or something happened. I have never had to touch this emergency fund. I'm very, very glad, but it gives me great peace of mind that I have it. And there is no particular amount. Barefoot, I think, recommends about $2,000. This is Australian dollars. But set up a target of whatever amount that you are comfortable with. You may want to have 3 months worth of expenses saved. You might want to have 6 months worth of expenses saved. It is totally up to you. So those, just quickly on the screen there, are the 5 accounts that I have and live by, and I have modified this slightly to incorporate the joint account that my partner and I have. But again, I can talk to you about that separately. But this is a structure that worked exceptionally well for me, and it works really well with a budget template that I will share with you in coming videos. So remember that when it comes to money and investing, it can be hard, it can be overwhelming. There's a lot of shame, at least I had a lot of shame around how irresponsible I felt like I'd been in past situations. And it took until I was about 35 until I really went, okay, I got to really get on top of my finances here. And it's not easy, you know, and you may have debt, you may have other things in your life that is causing you stress, but the biggest favor you can do yourself is to start right now and to start small. Even if you only save $20 a month to your Smile and $50 a month to your future fund, or whatever that amount is for you, it is way better, because psychologically you are training yourself to invest in yourself and your future. And then a lot of other things will start to become a lot easier. You might be able to cut your grocery budget down. You might be able to get rid of a bill and, you know, or significantly lower your phone bill or something else. So we'll talk more about that in future budgeting videos, but for now I want you to know that wherever you are at right now is totally fine. There's no shame in starting right this second and promising yourself that you're going to improve things going forward. And I can't wait to share more budgeting tools and resources with you going forward. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and hop on that subscribe button, and also make sure that you hit the notification bell, meaning that you'll get a notification every time I upload a video. And like I said, the budgeting template video will be coming out in 2 weeks from recording this video. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.